The rain poured heavily that night, drenching the grand marble driveway of the Khawaja Empire mansion. Expensive cars lined the porch, servants rushed to and fro carrying trays of silver, and laughter echoed from the glowing hall inside. But amidst that luxury, one young man stood outside the iron gates, soaked, humiliated, and broken. His clothes were torn, his face streaked with tears, and his trembling hands clutched a small leather bag. The guard had just thrown him out like he was nothing more than a servant who overstayed his welcome. Inside, unaware of the chaos outside, billionaire Mr. Khawaja Salman, one of the richest men in the country, was raising a toast at his son's homecoming dinner. That son was supposed to be the same young man now standing in the cold rain. But when Salman walked outside and saw who the guard had thrown out, his blood ran cold. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. That drenched, trembling figure was his own son. And what Salman did next, the broken bar, shocked everyone. Chapter 1. At the fall from grace. A few hours earlier, Ian Khawaja, 24, had returned home after years of studying abroad. He was kind-hearted, humble, and far different from the arrogant airs of other wealthy families. He believed in simplicity and compassion, traits his father admired once, but the corporate world had changed Mr. Khawaja. Money became his god, status his pride. Ian entered his father's mansion with hope in his eyes, carrying only a small suitcase and an old wristwatch, his late mother's gift. But as soon as he stepped in, whispers started echoing through the marble hall. The servants, dressed neatly in uniforms, looked away nervously. From the upper balcony, Mrs. Khawaja, his stepmother, smirked coldly. Beside her stood Ramis, his stepbrother, tall, arrogant, wearing a designer suit, the perfect image of what his father wanted. "Oh, look who decided to return," Ramis sneered. "The boy who shows books over business." Ian smiled softly. "I came home, brother. I missed everyone." But his warmth was met with silence. Mrs. Khawaja looked him up and down and said sharply, "You should have called before coming. We have important guests tonight, people of class." That hurt Ian, but he stayed silent. He went to his old room, only to find it had been turned into a storage closet. Dust covered his old guitar, and a servant whispered, "Sir said you wouldn't come back." He took a deep breath and went downstairs, trying to talk to his father. But Mr. Khawaja was surrounded by investors and high-profile guests, laughing and boasting about Ramis's success. When Ian finally got his father's attention, he said softly, "Abba, I wanted to tell you I've completed my degree in social entrepreneurship. I have ideas to help poor families start small businesses. I want to do something meaningful." The room went silent. Mr. Khawaja stared at him, expressionless, before bursting into laughter. "Meaningful? You think this world runs on charity? We built this empire through power and profit, not pity." Ian's face fell. "But Abba, Mother always said money means nothing if we don't lift others with Ida." "Enough." Mr. Khawaja slammed the glass table. "Don't bring your mother into this. She's gone, and so are her foolish dreams." The guests murmured. Ramis smirked, whispering, "Servants should know their place." That word, a servant, stung like fire. Later that night, while Ian sat quietly in the garden, Mrs. Khawaja called the guards. "He's embarrassing us. Get him out. He doesn't belong here anymore." When Ian tried to explain, the guard pushed him. "Orders from Madam," he said coldly. Ian fell on the wet driveway, his bag spilling open as books and his mother's photo sliding into the rain. And that's when the gates closed behind him. Chapter 2. At the rise and the real test. The next morning, the incident was all over social media. A passerby had filmed a millionaire's son thrown out of his own house. It went viral. When Mr. Khawaja saw it, he was furious, not out of guilt, but embarrassment. "That boy has ruined my name," he roared. But deep down, something cracked inside him. He remembered Ian's words, "A mother always said money means nothing if we don't lift others." Days passed. Ian had found shelter in a small roadside tea stall. The owner, Uncle Salim, recognized him. "Son, you're Mr. Khawaja's boy, aren't you? What are you doing here?" Ian smiled faintly. Starting from where others stopped, he began helping poor families, teaching them business skills, helping women sell handmade crafts, and organizing community funds. Within months, his small initiative, Hope Start, grew across towns. Local media picked up his story. Billionaire's son turns philanthropist for the poor. Meanwhile, Rames's arrogance led to the downfall of Khawaja Empire. Bad deals, corruption, and greed swallowed their fortune. The empire crumbled. One rainy evening the same as the night Diane was thrown out, Mr. Khawaja stood helpless outside a bank, his company seized, his mansion sold. No car, no guards, no power, just silence. As he walked aimlessly, his chest heavy with regret, a familiar voice called out, "Abba." He turned and there stood Diane, holding an umbrella, the same son he had abandoned. Mr. Khawaja froze. "I am a broken Baria, shh," Diane said gently. "You don't have to say anything. Let's go. I'll take you home." Tears filled the old man's eyes. "Home? Which one? I lost everything." Diane smiled softly. "No, Abba, you only lost what was never truly yours. The real home is where love never leaves." He took his father to the same community he'd built, where children ran, families smiled, and people helped one another. For the first time in years, Mr. Khawaja felt peace. He spent his remaining days working alongside Diane, serving tea, teaching children, and realizing the truth his late wife once said: "A rich man is poor if he has no heart." And as the sun set behind the small village center, the same guard who once threw Diane out stood at the gate, now opening it with respect, whispering, "Welcome home, sir."